DDSN works with providers across South Carolina to ensure that those with spinal cord injuries have access to services they need. We spoke to individuals with spinal cord injuries who have benefited from our resources. Ashley Williams, a victim of gun violence and a spinal cord injury survivor, now lives life in a wheelchair. This is her story.
I was shot by my ex-boyfriend. He was always abusive, pretty much. So we got into a lot of arguments quite often. I don't know if you can see this mark under my eye, but it's been well over 12 years now and it's still there. This is something that came from him, just black in my eye. But one day he just randomly shot me. It wasn't expected. We didn't have an argument. And it really caught me off guard. It's not something that I saw coming. I was actually playing like my Xbox and just looking at the TV, and he said something to me. I really don't remember what he said. Maybe it's the trauma trying to block whatever he said, but he said something to me. So I turned around, he had the gun, and he just started shooting. And I tried to stand because I was sitting on like a stool. I tried to stand up and I just automatically fell.
After nearly 2 hours lying on the floor, Ashley finally managed to convince her boyfriend to go get help.
So I was laying on the living room floor, but then he like picked me up, took me to the bedroom and was like, we're about to go to sleep. And that's when I'm like, listen, I'm not mad at you, but if you don't get me help, I'm gonna die. So I finally convinced him. He picked me up, took me in the car and took me down the street to his mom's house. And she came to the door because it had to be like 2 or 3 in the morning. And once she saw me and like all the blood, she called 911.
Ultimately, Ashley's boyfriend was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Ashley shared a piece of advice for those who may be in an abusive relationship.
What I say to women now is, if you're in that type of situation, I ask them, do you love your kids? Like, do you love your family? Who do you have? What would they do without you? Are you prepared to die? Because it does get worse. So it's something you really need to think about.
She talked about her life before the injury.
I was not like into school or any of that, so I actually didn't even get to graduate because I was pretty, a wild child. So I spent like a lot of time in DJJ growing up, just not listening to parents, just whatever you can think of. So I ended up getting my GED later on.
She opened up about her perspective on life after the injury.
To be honest, I really didn't want to live anymore because I just couldn't see my life like not being able to walk. 3 months before I'm turning 21 and I can't walk, I can't do the things that I should be doing as a young adult. So I really thought my life was over. I didn't know anybody with a spinal cord injury. So I just didn't see a life for myself really. So it was really hard. It took probably a full year for me to just understand like this is what it's going to be. This is how my life is going to be.
Ashley took advantage of several resources.
I was doing a lot of research on my own, but it was more so like, how can I walk again? So doing that, I came across different organizations that help with, certain stuff. One was DDSN and just case management, trying to get services as far as like attendant care, because I was not in a place where I can do a lot on my own. Also, the Spinal Cord Injury Association, they really helped a lot.
She shared the adjustments she had to make to her environment, from her home to her car, to adapt to her new reality.
So moving back home with my parents, their house was not accessible, so I had to get a ramp built just to be able to get in and out. Like I said, my dad is older, so it's not like he could just lift me up and take me up the steps and, get me where I needed to go. I had a lot of doctor's appointments and stuff, so the ramp was very important. The bathroom, I'm a very, clean person. So not being able to like take a shower automatically and get in the bathroom by myself was a big issue for me. So I was very grateful to have that done as well. Voc Rehab paid for my driver's training. That's another organization. They helped me like get into work and all of that, but they paid for driver's training maybe like 2 years after my injury. And they put on my first set of hand controls in my first car, and then the Husky waiver actually paid for my second and third set.
Breaking free from the cycle of boredom and depression, she focused on setting and achieving new goals.
Like I said, I had a really rough adjustment. So my cousin said, well, you know what, maybe you should go to school. Maybe you should find something to do. And so I had my GED. So I decided, you know, if I stay at home and do nothing, I'm probably going to be depressed. So I decided to go to school, and I went to South University. I got my bachelor's in psychology, and I really wanted to understand the way the human mind works. My ex was a big reason for that. Also, my mom, she's schizophrenic, so that's part of the reason why I had like a rough childhood, and was kind of disrespectful, not really understanding her and her situation. So I decided to go for psychology, and then I really fell in love with it. I fell in love with learning about people, what they like, and you know how the mind works. So I decided to continue my education after that, and I went to school back to South University, and I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling. So it's an interesting story. In the process of getting my Husky waiver, my old supervisor came, you know, they do the home visits, and they came out and was asking about services and whether or not I wanted to go back to school for anything. And I said, I think I'm done with school. I got my master's. I'm just trying to find a job. And they said, well, maybe you should come, you know, look into working for Rich Lex because, you know, you qualify. So, and it might be a good thing working for, you know, working with people that have the same injury as you. So she got me an interview, and I've been at Rich Lex ever since. So 5 years.
Addressing common misconceptions, she discussed the realities faced by those living with spinal cord injuries.
Some people think that people with spinal cord injuries are lazy, that they don't want to do anything. And it's not that. It's just some people do really require help. Things can set people back. So, for example, I know people that if they don't have their caregivers, they can't get up to do basic things that they need to do. Some people really need that. So I would say that's one thing.
Ashley offered heartfelt advice for those who have recently experienced a similar injury.
I would say there are tons of resources for everything that you can think of. If you need modifications to a car or house, or if you want to learn how to drive, if you need, you know, help around the house, attendant care, incontinence supplies, it's so much that people with spinal cord injuries need. So I would say do your research and reach out to people if you need to.
Ashley talked about what enables her to stay positive.
So I'm super optimistic. That's another reason why I really love my job as a case manager. I love going to talk to, you know, new people and just give them like a fresh outlook on life. Like it's not all bad. But I would say just having a journey, seeing that I can still do whatever I want to do. Like I surf, I go and get on roller coasters at theme parks. Like I do pretty much everything that I want to do. So it's been really helpful to be able to still do those things successfully and still have a good life.
Her message to those who are newly injured is filled with encouragement and hope.
Life does not stop like I thought it did. You can still do pretty much whatever you want to do in a chair. It's just finding a different way to do things. So I know people as quadriplegic that skydive. So it's, you know, you can absolutely do anything and you can make your life what you want it to be, and it doesn't stop. It's just a new journey. You can do whatever you put your mind to, and but you need to, live where you are now, basically.
Surprisingly, she mentioned how the injury changed her life for the better.
So a lot of people probably think that I'm, I guess, weird for this, but it really changed my life. I was somebody totally different from who I am now. So it helped me grow. I wouldn't be who I am today without it. I probably would end up, would have ended up dead. I'm not sure.